Hello and welcome to the Mark Dolan Show from the rooftops of beautiful central London. Now, Prince Harry may be feeling pretty smug about his 4-day trip to the United Kingdom and his time here in London and meeting King Charles at Clarence House. But have I got news for you? Because it's the understanding of the Mark Dolan Show that yes, it's mission accomplished when it comes to King Charles having yielded to Harry's will and granting him this audience, which many of you are absolutely furious about. But speaking of furious, it is Prince William, who we understand is even angrier than ever with his brother and cannot forgive this latest public relations exercise. Now, we understand that Prince William, who of course is the next in line to the throne, is particularly irritated at the pretend royal nature of this visit. Now, it was kind of a tale of two Harrys, because in California, on his way over to the UK, he's in a brown polo shirt. He's got a baseball cap on, he's got sunglasses, he's just kind of going for the hipster look, you know what I mean? Or if you like, the kind of hobo look, like a homeless man. Well, let's be honest, he's not homeless, he lives in a mansion in Montecito, but he pretends that he's a man of the people, just a regular guy, just a regular guy, and fifth in line to the throne, and a multimillionaire. But the twist is that when he got into the UK, suddenly it is the Royal Harry. We're back to His Royal Highness, Prince Harry, the grandson of the late Queen Elizabeth II and the son of the King of the United Kingdom, King Charles. It was a complete ego fest and a massive public relations exercise, and Harry knows what he's doing. He knows the game that he's playing. He's pretending that he is a frontline serving royal. He's creating the illusion that he's back. Well, William, we understand, is not having it, and William just furious at the fact that Harry hasn't visited the United Kingdom in a tactful way, in a respectful way, so much as to say, yes, my dad is the King of the United Kingdom, but I'm a commoner now. I'm not HRH because I chose my freedom with Meghan Markle and I'm in California and I'm just a regular guy now. But of course, Harry suffers from a terrible disease. Narcissism, yes, we know that. Egomania, self-indulgence, all of those things. But he suffers from cakeism. Harry is crippled with cakeism. I better be careful because it's quite a drop down there. It's dropping. If I'm not careful, I could drop faster than Prince Harry's esteem of the British public here in the UK. By the way, that trip to the UK, no one here was convinced. We weren't impressed. It was quite clear what the guy's up to. He wants to finagle himself back into royal circles. He needs money from his father and he misses being famous and he misses being a posh royal. Anyhow, the bottom line is that the faux nature of this trip, the fake state visit of Prince Harry to the UK is something that we understand has rankled William, and that Harry has given no acknowledgement to this new arrangement that he's got with the royal family. He wants to have it both ways. He's got cakeism. He wants to have his cake and eat it. Those are the symptoms of cakeism, and Harry is the most famous sufferer of it. In fact, we should have a kind of Live Aid style concert to raise money to treat Harry's terrible cakeism, which would appear to be fatal. And Bono could get a few people together and Bob Geldof at Elton will play. Obviously, let's get Phil Collins a couple of steroid injections and back on the drums. Let's have a fundraising concert for Harry, and we'll call it, it's not Live Aid, we'll call it Harry Aid, for the world's least happy millionaire who wants to have his cake and eat it. So the bottom line is that we understand that William's not happy. And of course, he's not happy because of the way that this tour was conducted, where Harry goes to the BLASTS Centre for injured people at Imperial College. They're all standing there with their, hands covering their sort of private parts, honored to meet you, Your Royal Highness, all waiting. It's a miracle that when Harry touched down in the UK, he didn't kiss the ground like the old Pope. Do you remember John Paul II used to kiss the turf, which was a lovely, God knows, I don't want to know how many infections the poor old Pope used to get, how many herpes viruses on his mouth just from kissing the ground, especially London, which is now a filthy, dangerous city. I would not kiss the ground here under any circumstances. I want to kiss the bride. Yep. Anyhow, so William has watched from afar and he's got the measure of his brother. He knows what Harry's like and he knows what Harry is up to. This is a rebrand for Harry, Harry 2.0, Harry the sequel, which is bound to be as entertaining as the sequel to The Hangover, which, let me tell you, was not entertaining at all. So this is the issue you've got now, and I'm horrified about this because Harry thinks he's won, but actually he's lost. Because yes, he's managed to trick Charles into granting him an audience, which many of you are furious about. You told me that in the comments. And it demonstrates that Charles is a nice man, is a decent man. I get it. It's his son. Blood is thicker than water. But I'm sorry, Charles, for what that boy has done to the royal family, to the Queen, to you, to this country, to the monarchy. It's unforgivable. There's no way back. And Charles is showing no backbone. And he's been tricked. He's been hoodwinked. He's been completely conned by Prince Harry on this occasion. Meanwhile, William sees straight through him, right? William knows his onions. William doesn't take any nonsense. Let's be honest. William's not a flippant or light-hearted character, is he? He's a serious dude. Make sure my laptop doesn't go fly. He's a very, very serious dude. Partly because he has been born with the knowledge that he'll be king one day, which is a huge burden, which is why I find it so irritating that Harry complains about being the spare. The spare is the best gig. All of the fame, all of the privilege, none of the responsibility. You don't have to be king. It's perfect. It's perfection. It's perfektione. Auf die Treppe schnell. So we understand, royal insiders have told this program that William is not happy about Harry's trip and knows exactly what Harry's up to, didn't like the fake royal nature of it. And I can echo that because I think what this trip has also demonstrated, it's revealed Harry's character for what it is. First of all, it demonstrates that he's dangerously unpredictable because the moment he finished his time here in the UK and he was running late from appointment to appointment because he's absolutely hit the guy, Harry, is a hot mess of a human being. Harry's a hot mess. His life is chaos. He's back in the UK. I thought dressed quite untidily, actually. I thought he looked a little messy at times. He's kind of wearing like these sneakers and casual trousers, like these pants from a very sort of budget store. Is he going to Target or Pennies now for his trousers? And I'm very fat as well. He absolutely piled on the pounds. And it's not Meghan's cooking, is it? It's not. It's the Wendy burger because, of course, Harry famously loves the Wendy's. Because Meghan's too lazy. She doesn't cook. She revealed that once. She gets the takeouts and Harry loves the Wendy's. Anyway, it's taking its toll on old Prince Harry. So disheveled and slightly chunky, going from, different place to different place in the UK, pretending to be a frontline serving royal. His Royal Highness is back and shaking people by the hands and posing for selfies. I didn't think the crowds were very big, by the way. There were a handful of people at each venue because William hasn't just moved on from Prince Harry. We have. The British public have moved on. We're out. It's done, Harry. There is no way back. And the UK, right? It's the British people that control this. Yes, Charles makes the decision to grant him the audience, but for the royals, without the support of the public, without popular will, there is no royal family and there is no Prince Harry. We wouldn't accept him back if he tried to pretend to be Prince Harry again, HRH. And the other person that will never accept it is William. And this trip, as we understand it, speaking to royal insiders who are well connected with the palace, we understand that William is not impressed by this trip and knows exactly what Harry is up to. He's got the measure of the man. So he goes to Ukraine, demonstrating that he's crazily unpredictable because he was expected to go back to the United States. It also demonstrates that he couldn't care less about his safety, which makes a mockery of his decision to sue the British government for royal security here in the UK. And it actually demonstrates that Meghan couldn't care less about Harry's safety because he said, I had to check before going to Ukraine. I had to check with the government, the British government. Well, that was nice. Was that in between suing them, Harry? How are relations between the British government and yourself, given the fact that you've taken them to court and hilariously you lost and they took you down to Chinatown, which is a part of a Western city that's got loads of Chinese people in it where they eat Chinese food, hence Chinatown. It's like a town made up of the Chinese, but not in China. It could be in Australia, the UK, the United States, Canada, you name it. That's the idea of Chinatown. It's like a little mini country inside a different country. You're welcome. So, and he said, I had to check with the British government and I had to check with Meghan Markle. Now, what on earth is she doing letting him go? What does she think of Harry? Does she have any value for this guy if she's going to allow him to fly to a war zone? Are you married? Have I got ladies watching? Would you allow your husband to effectively go on holiday to the Ukraine? I understand the people of Ukraine are fighting for their country and I wish them well. It's an awful war. We want it to end as quickly as possible. I get it. You fight for your country. But what's he doing over there? Another public relations exercise, photographed at a memorial, pouting like this. What's my best side? Well, I'll just stand here next to this grave of these people who have passed away. Is that good? Is that a good look? Should I hold a rifle or something? Humpy dumpy dumpy dump. Prince Harry, world's least happy millionaire. Humpy dumpy dumpy dump. Yeah, I've met with the family of the bereaved of former Ukrainian soldiers who lost their lives, and I explained to them that actually I'm a victim because my father, King Charles, wasn't a very good dad. Humpy dumpy dumpy dump. Are you sick of biased news? Well, so am I. And that's why every morning, with my big cup of decaf in my Father's Day mug that I actually bought for myself, I read Ground News. It shows how stories are covered differently by the left, the right, and the centre. Take this one, for example, President Donald Trump's tariff crusade. Some outlets say that he's mad and is wrecking the economy. Others say that he's standing up for American jobs and will triumph. Well, Ground News shows both sides and lets you decide, because it turns out you've got a brain! Who knew? So try Ground News. Go to ground.news/Dolan or click the link below. You will get a 40% off discount from the Vantage plan. 40% off for the plan that I use for unlimited access. It is a game-changing way to consume the news. And more importantly, it will make you sound very clever at dinner parties. Ground News is subscriber funded. No billionaire overlords pulling the strings. Just the unvarnished truth from every angle. What's not to like? That is ground.news/Dolan. I'll drink to that. The whole thing is wild. It also demonstrates that Harry is a massive narcissist because the trip was all about him. It wasn't about the causes that he participated in. This was an opportunity to get his name out there and to try to dip his toe back into the UK. You can't have it both ways. This is the problem with the cakeism that cripples Harry. Crippled with cakeism, because he wanted his freedom. He didn't want the boring job of being a frontline serving role and opening hospital wings, which is mightily tedious, and receiving gifts from the public, stuffed bears. He wants to stuff those bears where the sun doesn't shine. He's not interested. I'm not sure he likes the public. Well, how can he like the public? He turned his back on the public. And that's his problem. That's not a problem, by the way, that I have, because let me tell you, my life is the public. You are my life. You're not the public. You're my family. This is a community, the Mark Dolan Show. But we haven't met, have we, yet? We've got to have a meet and greet. I've got to travel the world and do meet and greets. I wanted to do meet and greets in America on the road trip, but we were so busy, cameraman John and I. It was a daily routine of shoot the video, prepare, get to the next location. Pretty wild stuff. But the public is my life. The public is my job. And do you know something? It's the best job in the world. And I wouldn't change a thing. And I would do it for nothing. But Harry didn't want to do it for nothing. And he didn't even want to be paid handsomely to do it, which of course the royals are, effectively, by having that luxury life. So he turned his back on that. And yet now he is back. And we understand that William is furious about this. And William sees what you and I see, which Charles won't see because he's just become so incredibly naive, which is that Harry is trying to sneak back into the royal family without doing the heavy lifting, and it ain't going to work. So let me give you some detail on this trip, which has massively triggered William. And by the way, it's done more damage. So if Harry had stayed in America and kept his counsel, there's a chance that relations between William and Harry could have thawed. But having spoken to a couple of royal insiders, they've argued to me and onto this program that his decision to come here and do the pretend fake royal trip has been another straw that is breaking the camel's back of Prince William. And that if Harry had stayed in the UK and maybe even WhatsApped his brother going, listen, I'd love to come, but I realize it's not appropriate. I've burned my bridges. Maybe you could let me know when a good time to come is, and I will actually come on your terms. That's what he should have said to his brother. He'd go, look, I miss home and I miss the family. But if there's any way I can come back, which is appropriate for the decisions I've made, I would appreciate your guidance. That's what he should have said to his brother, because it's his older brother, and you look up to your older brother like I do. The older brother is always the more senior member of the family, and he's going to be king in the case of William. And you defer to your brother, and you let William call the shots, and you give William the control, you get William the power, and that is the beginning of some kind of renaissance of their relationship. What you don't do is unilaterally come to the UK, pretend to be a frontline serving royal, kiss the ground, picking up various diseases on your lips. Although Harry is, I would imagine he's quite viral at the best of times, because don't forget, he's had a lot of girlfriends. He's a very clumsy, chaotic character. He's completely flaky. I don't know some of the girls he was with. There was one lady, and it was in a car park in the rear of a pub. And he's a dirty boy. I don't know. It doesn't strike me as a clean character. Sorry, but that's my, I say as I see. And I think he's a very salacious personality. And I wouldn't, I think a blood test would be rather revealing in the case of Harry. I think he's a mutt. That's what I would say. He's a bit of a mutt. And poor old Meghan, I would say, on that one. He is like a homeless man half the time, isn't he? Now, trudging around with the beard and his sunglasses. It's just, it's so unedifying. Anyhow, how did we get on to Harry's medical makeup? So he went to Kyiv as part of his work for the Invictus Games. That's why he went there. He flew to Poland and then caught the train to the Ukrainian capital. Now, Poland has just had a drone strike from Russia, but Harry feels quite safe in Poland. He then goes to Kyiv, which is one of the focal points of the war in Ukraine. Okay, but he's worried about his safety. Kyiv was hit by Russian cruise missiles 2 days prior to his trip. Okay, and on the same night that he was there, numerous attack drones from Russia violated Polish airspace and was shut down. And he had to check with his wife, what is Meghan doing, letting him go to Ukraine? She obviously doesn't care about him whatsoever, because let me know in the comments, would you let your husband go to Ukraine if it wasn't a military thing, just for essentially a holiday and a public relations exercise? Do me a favor, you wouldn't go for it at all. It would be a non-starter. Why does she let him go to a war zone? Is she angling to be a war widow or something? Is that going to be Meghan's new look? Oh, I'm so sad. Harry went to Ukraine and there were all these drones and it didn't end well, I'm afraid. Poor Harry. Such a shame. Now I'm going to have to find a new husband. I might go for Rupert Murdoch. I love Rupert. I like billionaires, especially old ones. It's my favorite kind. They're so cute with their wrinkly faces. So, no, of course I'm joking, right? Of course Meghan wants Harry to be on the planet, obviously. But is it not odd that your wife would sanction a trip to the Ukraine, a famous war zone? What does it tell us about her attitude to him? I can tell you that Mrs. Dolan would not let me go to the Ukraine. It would not be allowed. Why? Because she hopefully values me and wishes for me to stay on this planet and doesn't seek for my life to be any greater peril than in central London, where, let's be honest, it's getting more perilous by the day. So then what happened is he said he checked with the British government, he checked with Meghan if he could go. He didn't check with his father, did he? He didn't check with King Charles, which is why I don't understand why Charles has been so forgiving. And he didn't check with his brother. He should have checked with the entire royal family. He should have contacted the palace and going, I'm thinking of going to Ukraine for a bit of a holiday and a photo op. Can I get your permission? Thanks, man. But no, so disrespectful. And it's another reason why William's not having it and why William is furious and why this trip has made William and Harry's relationship far worse. Because what William's doing is looking at this and he's thinking, this is what I predicted and this is what I told you about this guy. And look, here we go again. It's a pattern of behavior. So Harry posed for an opportunity, a photo op at a makeshift memorial for Ukrainian and foreign soldiers in Kyiv. Like they haven't suffered enough. They've got to get this misery guts turning up now with his sad face. He said, I hope my visit keeps it in the forefront of people's minds. Get over yourself, Harry. The forefront of people's minds. No one takes any notice of this guy, but he reckons that when he goes there, it's like a really big deal. I'm here, I'm Harry now. Everyone's taking pictures and I'm so famous and I'm going to really help the war. You've not helped anything. Everything you touch turns to mud. In fact, I've got no doubt that Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky were seconds away from a peace deal before you turned up. Because you are somebody that seems to bring trouble with you wherever you go. Trouble with a capital T. He even got to sit down with the Ukrainian Prime Minister, Yulia Sviridenko. And you would think, wouldn't you, this poor woman has got better things to do than sit down with a spoiled aristocrat, moaning about his terrible life through a Ukrainian translator. What's Ukrainian for 16 bathrooms and Montecito mansion? Anyhow, so what's Ukrainian for flower sprinkles? Flooring sprinklings. A lot of flights going on here in central London today. Thank God, the economy is picking up. We need it. While meeting with wounded soldiers, Harry made some emotional comments about the importance of opening up to loved ones, including, wait for it, siblings. He had the cheek, the lack of self-awareness to talk about siblings. And look what you've done to your sibling, who is boiling with rage at you for your terrible disloyalty over many, many years through a book, through podcasts and a TV series. And you have the cheek to talk about siblings. Do me a favor. Okay, rather embarrassingly, I've had to come inside to a rather faceless office because it started raining, because wherever I go, I tend to bring the rain with me, which is very unfortunate. It's as reliable as Prince Harry turning everything to mud. Do you know what's funny about when he was in Ukraine, he suddenly decided that he was going to be a mental health role model. And he said, oh, you know, you'll feel lost at times in life, like you lack purpose. But however dark those days are, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Can you imagine a worse self-help guru, a worse voice on mental health than Prince Harry? I can't think of one. It'll have people just in a very, very depressed state, nearly as depressed as him. And he said, you just need to look for it because there will always be someone, a mother, a father, a sibling, a friend, or a comrade. Well, he's lost all his friends. We know that from the royal butler who said he's not in touch with his friends anymore. His sibling, his only sibling, is someone that he has verbally abused, viciously, mentally assaulted. His mother's gone and he's been obnoxious about his father, who's been naive enough to allow him back into his life. We've also been told that Harry regrets some of his actions. And he wants this trip, right, this trip to the UK to be the start of a functioning relationship between Harry and Meghan and the wider family. It ain't going to happen. As the New Yorkers say, forget about it. Forget about it. It ain't going to happen. The idea that there is any way to rehabilitate Harry and Meghan as a partnership is for the birds. Apparently, he wants to reset relations with the Windsors and the people of the UK. Although apparently an insider said it's hard to see him ever coming back to live in Britain. Well, we don't want him. It would be hard for us. And the answer is no. The trip was, let's have a look at this. The trip was viewed as a success by Prince Harry and his people. Well, if you define success as having annoyed your brother even more, to the point where when he becomes king, he's going to make life very difficult for you. Because don't forget that I'm really worried on behalf of Prince William, because I think that the relationship with Harry, it is now at an all-time low. And I think that Harry is going to be so obnoxious when William's king, because he'll be very jealous and he'll do everything he can to undermine his brother. So I've got to say, whilst I want to be talking about a lot of other subjects on the Mark Dolan show, I'm pretty convinced that a perennial theme when poor Charles shuffles off this mortal coil will be William versus Harry. And everything that Harry does, including spontaneous visits to the UK when William is king. And he'll be there for the photo op, and he'll go to Ukraine, which will probably still be at war. And if it's not at war, he'll go to some other country that's at war, because Harry loves a bit of war, because the people there are just as miserable and emotionally injured as he always is. So that's what happened. That's what we've heard about. We heard about the siblings and everything. He regrets his actions, yada, 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 yada. But I think it's very interesting to have a look at what he did do while he was here. For example, he participated in the Diana Award. And it's so sad because the Diana Award is effectively run by William and Harry. And yet for all these years, there's no collaboration. You've got one mother and two sons, two brothers of that mother, and yet they don't speak to each other and they don't participate in any joint activities apart from the 20-year anniversary. There has not been a moment where they've been in the same room and the same building, and that is so sad. And whose fault is that? Well, it ain't William, is it? It is Harry all day long. What else? Oh yes, so we need to talk about the issue of this meeting. So we were told 54 minutes. Now that sounds to me like Sussex spin. Because yes, he was in the building for 54 minutes, but he's having an audience with the king. So he's got to get in, he's got to clear security, which is going to take time. He's going to be frisked, which is probably the most intimacy Harry has had in many years. Because I don't think his relationship with Meghan is all that fruitful in that department anymore. I don't think so. That is my honest interpretation of it, because I think the marriage is dead. I think it's a marriage of convenience now. Well, it's convenient for Meghan for sure, and it's destroying Harry's life. And they've got to check him for security detail, and of course, probably look for microphones. No doubt they were patting him down to see if there was a hidden microphone, which he could then use as a later bit of ammo against the royal family. So by the time you've been through security, you walk through the corridors of Clarence House, the massive building. It's cavernous. It's got, alleyways and corridors, and, it's a Byzantine structure. And so then he's got to sit there. He's got to wait for his dad to come in. The king's not going to be sit there waiting for him because he is the king and he's also Harry's father. So Harry's got to sit there looking at his fingernails and, sort of whistling, passing the time until Charles comes and greets him. And then they have a brief, hello, what's happening, this, that, and the other. And then the meeting's got to end and Harry's got to navigate his way out of Clarence House again. And because he's such a dishonest character, they've probably got to frisk him again and see whether there isn't any antique jewellery in his pocket, knives and forks, anything that's not screwed down. So was it 54 minutes? It's got to be less than that, hasn't it? It's got to be 20 to 30 tops. And was it a complete reconciliation where Charles says, you're forgiven and I love you and let's just get back to normal, how things were? Absolutely not. This was a stopgap. And we know that is true. And it's quite interesting because the brilliant Jenny Bond, who I have had disagreements with over the past on a number of royal matters, one thing I do agree with is her remarks about how this meeting may have gone and why, which is the understanding of this show, that William is so peed off with Harry following this latest trip. And Jenny Bond, former BBC royal correspondent, has told the Mirror newspaper that the reason why William's irritated by this trip is that William has stood by his father through the past few tough years. He stood in for his father when needed, and he stood up for his father, declaring that they are very much, and I quote, not a racist family. She continued, I'm sure the king would have told William in advance about his decision to meet Harry, but William wouldn't be human if he didn't feel some resentment about Harry flying back for a headline-grabbing few days, very publicly handing out dosh to charities, which is something the rest of the royal family do regularly but discreetly, and strutting his stuff whilst his brother does the day-to-day grip and grin business of the royal workload. Now that's a brilliant point from Jenny, which is that everything that Harry did, his trip to Ukraine, his gift to children in need of $1.5 million, that is reckless and wild. That is money Harry doesn't have. And that's another area in which I'm surprised Meghan didn't step in. I'm surprised she didn't say you're not going to Ukraine. And I'm surprised she let him hand over $1.5 million to a charity called Children in Need in the UK, which puts Harry way closer to being flat broke. It shows how naive Harry is. Because how is he going to pay for the rest of his life? He's only 40 and he's a Windsor probably. And he therefore has got, potentially 5 more decades on the planet. 6 more. He could live for 60 years. He could live to 100. His grandmother lived to almost 100. And how's he going to pay for that? Given that he's got no job and no income, and now he's just given away $1.5 million to the children in need. Well, the reason he's done it is because he's desperate to be liked and he's desperate for publicity. If he was really generous, he would give $1.5 million to children in need and say it's anonymous, please don't tell anyone. And that is what the royal family do. But it's not what Harry does because he needs to get the plaudits. So she's absolutely right that he's irritated by the public handing out of money, the public support of charities, which, as she said, the royal family do regularly but discreetly. Strutting his stuff, that's exactly what he does. He does strut his stuff. She said, Jenny Bond, she is still Jenny from the block. She said, time may yet prove the great healer, but where William is concerned, now is certainly not the right time for reconciliation with his sibling. Indeed, it may never happen. Time for a mic drop. That's actually not my remote. It's not my office. I better be careful. Oh dear. Right. Come on. Concentrate. Focus. We've got to wrap this up. No idea what time it is. And that's a good thing. So time may prove to be the great healer, but it may never happen. And Jenny from the block is so right about that. Other experts have echoed these sentiments. The excellent commentator Daisy McAndrew, who's a good friend of mine, I've worked with her many times, a very nice lady and a great journalist. She told the Sun newspaper, my impression is William doesn't feel comfortable with this rift being fixed, and he, I don't think, would have wanted this meeting to have gone ahead. She's so right. William, we know that. My insiders have told me that William is not happy about this 4-day trip, and he's really annoyed with his father at letting it happen and bringing Harry and Meghan back into the royal fold with the crazy idea that Harry and Meghan are somehow, this is the first step into reintegrating those outrageous spoiled brats back into the royal family. It ain't going to happen, not on my watch. And Daisy McAndrew, who's a very experienced journalist, added that in her view, William just thinks that Harry is too much trouble and he doesn't want anything to do with him, and he'd rather the king didn't as well. It's exactly right. The Daily Mail's diary editor, Richard Eden, who's one of the finest royal journalists in the country, has been writing, and it's very interesting, right? And he said the following. He said, I can understand a father wanting to meet his son, talking about sort of Charles meeting Harry, who wouldn't. The problem, says Richard Eden, is he's not just a father, he's our head of state. And he said, I think Harry and Meghan are bad news for the royal family. That's exactly right. That's exactly it. They are kryptonite. Do you remember Superman? And he gets this green rock and it's called kryptonite and it poisons him and makes him weak. It's the only thing that makes Superman weak is kryptonite. And the kryptonite of the royal family is Prince Harry, the world's least happy millionaire, the prodigal prince, which I noticed one of the main newspapers is now calling him prodigal prince. I wonder where they got the line prodigal prince from. Anyhow, and Prince Harry, the world's least happy millionaire, and my husband. The two of them are the kryptonite for the royal family. Richard Eden added, we've seen time and again that they can't be trusted. They exploit their royal connections, and I don't think it's being paranoid to say that they want to be the alternative royal family. That's exactly right. And that's what this trip was about, was pretending to be royal again, because he wants to be the satellite royal family based in California in the United States. And he goes on to say, and this is absolutely devastating and damning, he said they want to replace Prince William and Catherine as the principal royals, and they then want to undermine them. What's fascinating now, we've got to keep an eye on what Harry's doing. As you know, the Mark Dolan show predicted very successfully that the reconciliation between Harry and Charles was going to happen. And we didn't predict Ukraine because obviously for security reasons, Harry wasn't going to say that he was going there. And secondly, the guy is so unpredictable, I don't think anyone knew. Well, certainly Charles and William didn't know. And so we don't know what he's going to do next, but is he going to stay? Let me know what you think in the comments. Should Harry stay in Europe and attend the funeral of the Duchess of Kent, which is just a few days away? That would mean that he'd be in the same building as Charles and William. Should he do it? Would that be inappropriate? I don't think he should. I think he should get out of Dodge as quickly as he can with his tail between his legs, because he is a massive, extraordinary embarrassment. Folks, it has been great to talk. So much more to get through in tomorrow's show. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell as well for the occasional surprise video. If you're new to the show, there is a cat that comes from my house. It's my neighbour's cat. It's not my cat. It's my neighbour's cat. And I believe that this neighbour comes to about 8, 9, 10 households, has dinner at every household. He's a very lucky boy. But let me tell you that he's not just soft and fluffy. He also has the killer instinct. See you for the next show tomorrow. Bye for now. We have a lot of problems in the world. There is conflict, there is war, and you sometimes think the human race are so silly. But the problem is it's not limited to the human race. Oh dear. Now what on earth are we witnessing here? This is a flurry of bird feathers on the staircase carpet of my home. So the big question is, who could be responsible for an enormous number of bird feathers scattered on the carpeted staircase of my home? Is it Elton or Bernie, my 2 sons, whose names I've changed because I care about their privacy, unlike the Markles? Is it Mrs. Dolan? I shouldn't think so. She's quick, but she's not that quick. I just wonder whether we may have the culprit, who, not satisfied with eating a pigeon, appears to be having a second course, which is some rather fancy cat food made from little gorgeous pellets of protein. Reg, have you never heard any songs by John Lennon? Have you never heard of Give Peace a Chance? He's actually got a bird feather hanging off his whisker. Can you see that? Now the issue is, I've got the feathers, but I do not know where the bird is. I'd like to find the bird, reach out to the bird's family with the bad news, and then have a special ceremony for the bird, a dignified funeral in the garden of my North London home. But the problem is, like a lot of those awful criminals, Reg will not reveal his motivation for the attack, and he will not reveal where the body is. He is such a naughty boy. So this is the $1 million question. Where is the bird? What kind of bird is it? Is it a pigeon? Is it a sparrow? Is it a dove? Is it an eagle? I'll be honest with you. Reg is such a hunter, he could take down one of those flying dinosaurs because he's brutal and he's relentless, not unlike Meghan Markle, my husband, who is, of course, a hunter too. What's the great game that she hunted? Humpy dumpy dumpy dump. Poor Prince Harry, world's least happy millionaire. So come on, Reg. It's not acceptable. We want to lay this poor bird to rest. Please reveal its location and promise to be a more peaceful Moggy in the years ahead. Such a naughty boy. And of course, now that he's done his hunt, he's had the kill, he's going to take a little nap and reward himself for his excellent work. Look at that, licking his lips. Let's take this remnant of the poor, oh my goodness, I'll be washing my hands later. Naughty, naughty boy.